Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're tackling a really big one, the genetics of Alzheimer's disease.
Okay, so let's just get right to it. This is probably the question on everyone's mind, right? If Alzheimer's runs in your family, are you destined to get it too? Is it just baked into your DNA?
Well, the thing is, the answer isn't a simple yes or no. It's complicated because it's not one story. When we talk about the genetics of Alzheimer's, we're actually telling two very, very different tales.
So to really get this, we've got to start by splitting Alzheimer's into two major camps. And what divides them? It all comes down to age.
And wow, this really lays it out. You've got early onset on one side, super rare, just about 5% of all cases. It hits people before they're 65. And here's the kicker. It's usually caused by one single really powerful gene. Then you have late onset. This is the one most people are familiar with, making up 90 to 95% of cases. It happens after 65, and its cause isn't one single gene, but a whole bunch of genetic risk factors.
Okay, so let's dig into that first story. We're talking about the rare, but incredibly powerful early onset form.
The best way to picture this is with a sledgehammer. Seriously, we're not talking about a gentle push in the direction of the disease. This is a single gene mutation that comes down with one decisive blow. If you have it, getting Alzheimer's is pretty much a certainty.
And these are the genes holding that sledgehammer. You've got APP, PSN1, and PSN2. I mean, just look at that penetrance column. You see phrases like fully penetrant and virtually guarantees disease. That tells you the whole story. But, and this is a big but, look at how incredibly rare they are. We're talking about a tiny, tiny fraction of all Alzheimer's cases.
So how does this work? It's something called autosomal dominant inheritance. That's a fancy way of saying you only need to get one copy of this faulty gene from one parent. That's it. So for families with this gene, it's literally a coin flip, a 50-50 chance of passing it on to their kids.
All right, let's switch gears completely. Now we're going to talk about the second story, and this is the one that's relevant for almost everybody with Alzheimer's. The rulebook here is totally different.
So if early onset is a sledgehammer, late onset is, well, it's more like a team sport. There's no single gene that calls all the shots. Instead, you have a whole team of genes, and each one adds a little bit of risk to the pile. It's a game of odds, not certainty. And like any good team, this one has a star player.
And that star player's name is APOE. Specifically, a version of it called epsilon 4, or just APOE4 for short. Make no mistake, this is the single most important genetic risk factor for late-onset Alzheimer's, period.
So just how much of a star player are we talking about? Well, check this out. If you get one copy of APOE4 from one of your parents, your risk of developing Alzheimer's jumps up by 3 to 4 times. That is a huge leap compared to someone without it.
But what if you get a copy from both parents? Then the risk just goes through the roof. We're talking 10 to 15 times higher. It's an absolutely massive effect. But, and you have to remember this is the crucial difference from the sledgehammer. APOE4 increases your risk. It does not mean you will definitely get the disease. It's all about probability.
Of course, APOE isn't out there playing alone. You've got a whole supporting cast, dozens of other genes. But look at these guys, CLU, PICALM, CR1. Most of them just nudge the risk up a tiny, tiny bit. It really puts into perspective just how much of a superstar APOE really is.
Okay, so we've got these two totally different genetic stories, right? You've got the sledgehammer, which is basically a guarantee. And then you have the risk team, which is all about probability. But this is where the plot takes a really interesting twist.
The twist is this. It doesn't matter which path you start on. Both the sledgehammer path and the risk team path, they end up in the exact same place. They cause the same fundamental problems inside the brain. It's like taking two different highways that merge into one just before the city.
And here's a look at how that happens. You can see the sledgehammer genes, like APP, go right after amyloid processing. Meanwhile, the risk genes, like APOE or TREM2, they might mess with lipid metabolism or the brain's immune system. But ultimately, all of these disruptions lead to the same mess. Different entry points, same final problem.
So you might be thinking, wow, we've figured a lot out, and we have. But, and this is a big one, a huge piece of this genetic puzzle is still completely missing.
Check out this number. Twin studies, which are really the best tool we have for this stuff, they tell us that somewhere between 58 and 80% of a person's risk for Alzheimer's comes from their genes. That's massive. Genetics is the main driver here.
But here's the paradox. When you take every single gene we know about,
the sledgehammers, our star player APOE, the whole supporting cast, and you add up all their effects, you only explain about half of that genetic risk. So where's the other half? This is what scientists call the missing heritability.
So, where is that missing half hiding? This is the million-dollar question in Alzheimer's research right now. The hunt is on. Scientists think it's probably buried in a combination of things. Tons of super rare genes, the way our genes interact with our lifestyle and environment. It's the next great frontier.
And that really brings us to the big takeaway here. Figuring out these two genetic stories, it isn't just about understanding the why. Every single gene we find is like adding a new landmark to the map of this disease. It's a clue. It points researchers toward new ideas for treatments, for prevention. And it leaves us with this incredible and I think hopeful question to ponder. As we finish mapping this entire genetic landscape, will we finally learn how to rewrite the ending to this story?